What is up, guys? Alex here from technoclass.com, coming to you with another super fun, crazy, wow review video. This is for the Huawei Nexus 6P, their flagship Nexus device, the stock Android everybody loves, the 5.7-inch Quad HD AMOLED display that looks brilliant. We got a octa-core Snapdragon 810 processor here and a brand new 12.3 megapixel sort of ultra pixel camera with 1.55 micron technology. You know, it's really good. This is priced at 29,990, about 30,000 pesos, and it is super worth it. We're gonna talk about it right now. We'll see you guys in just a bit. All right, so here is the Huawei Nexus 6P, and the front looks absolutely amazing. I have to say, it's big, but it's still really nice looking. This is a Gorilla Glass 4 protected front. By the way, we do not have a box. That's why we don't have anything to unbox for you guys or show you what's inside. This is a USB Type-C device, so the charger and the cable is USB Type-C. Anyway, like I said before, the front is really nice. Even though we're not getting a curved display, this is a flat display, Gorilla Glass 4, and it's super shiny, super duper nice looking. We have two front-facing speakers here. Yes, two front-facing speakers. We have the, I believe, 8 megapixel camera right there, the front facing, and hidden underneath or somewhere there is the proximity and light sensitivity sensors. Now, you will notice that the bezels on the top and the bottom are a little bit big, but the phone itself is big on its own. The bezels are definitely there so you can hold the large, powerful speakers underneath these twin speaker grills. Here on the front middle, as you can see, the super duper beautiful AMOLED Quad HD display. I'm trying to zoom in as close as I can, and like I said, you can't see a lot of these pixels. I'm seeing a little bit of moire there. That's a little bit of the pixels, but this is a super duper packed LCD, I mean an AMOLED display, and it's beautiful to look at. One of the best features of this phone, no doubt. All right, so taking a look at the left side here, you can see there is a SIM tray right there. You need to poke with this poker thing. We have some cuts for the antennas, and you will notice, yes, this phone is made of metal. This is a Huawei phone, so they make metal phones, and they're very thin and impressive. We'll get to that later. As you can see on the bottom, we have the USB Type-C port. On the right, we have a volume rocker and a power button that is a slightly different texture. Actually, the volume rocker is smooth. Very easy to figure out where they are, and they're actually quite nicely placed for your thumb. But then again, you don't need to press the power button because there is a fingerprint scanner over there. On top, we have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and that's about it for the sides. All right, so taking a look at the back right here, you'll see it is a little bit more interesting. We have a Huawei logo right there, a Nexus logo right there, vertically oriented, a fingerprint scanner right there, which you can easily find by just feeling for that indentation. We have a noise cancellation microphone and a little bit of a glass strip. I don't know what kind of glass they're using here, which houses the 12.3 megapixel camera, the dual tone flash, and I believe this has a laser autofocus, which is pretty nice. Over on the bottom, I believe this is a sort of a metallic plastic on the back, probably to house a little bit of the extra antennas right here. You'll notice that the back is a smooth metal, so it can kind of be slippery. It's not like a soft touch rubbery texture, but that's what, you know, Huawei phones are made of these days, and they look excellent. All right, so overall, as far as the design of the phone goes, this is a very excellent looking phone. Some people will not like this sort of black area on the top there. That's kind of an interesting little visor on your phone. But overall, the phone, especially from the front, it looks really nice, especially with the display on, that 5.7-inch Quad HD display. Now, it is quite thin, and if you prefer, you know, sort of a easier grip on your phone, it is a little bit harder, especially if you're going to use this one-handed, as it will be requiring you to move your fingers around behind the phone. And the slippery nature of the metal is slightly harder to grab, But, you know, it's easy to fix with maybe a case, maybe a texture on the back. I don't know. Still a very, very well designed phone. It's very solid. There's no squeaking, creaking parts right here. Tapping on that is really, really good. It's a solid phone and it's a well designed phone. Looks amazing. All right, so taking a look at the user interface of the Huawei Nexus 6P, it is to be expected because it is a Nexus device that is running Android 6.0 Marshmallow, and it is one of the first, if not the first phone, who will be getting the official Android N update very soon this year. But right now, you can actually download the developer preview if you really want to experience Android, and that's because this is a Nexus device. And as you can see, as a Nexus device, it is buttery smooth. It is rocking the stock Android UI with the capacitive buttons right here, back, home, and of course the recent key. Everything is in place, including the vertically scrolling bar, the notification shade, and stuff like that. It's buttery smooth. I would give it, you know, a double S UI smoothness rank, as you would expect. By the way, this has a Snapdragon 810 processor, which will scream and, you know, take that UI kicking and screaming and make it super duper smooth. So yeah, the UI of the Nexus 6P is very, very good. All right, so one change that Google has done with the Nexus 6P is a now new row of 5x5 icons. It used to be 4x4 or a variation of such. But now, because we have a 5.7-inch large display with Quad HD resolution, we can fit more onto the home screen, making it more dense with information if you want to. And this actually helps if you want to read stuff on your, you know, Facebook page or your Twitter and stuff like that. You can fit more on your screen, and it looks super duper good because, you know, it's a more packed in text and more can fit onto the screen. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the UI is very, very good, except for this little thing, the ambient display, which lights up like that, and really, really nice because it utilizes the AMOLED displays, you know, selective turning on and off of pixels. But for the most part, it's kind of iffy, and you can't really force the ambient display to show up sometimes. It's kind of iffy. It will show you no notifications, but normally you just unlock your phone anyways. It's not as good as it could be. And probably that's the only thing I would complain about in this UI. All right, guys, so let's move on to now the exciting part, one of the most exciting parts about this phone, the new camera. The 12.3 megapixel camera is amazing. It's super duper good. If you ask me, this is the camera that people have always wanted of a Nexus phone. Looking at the app, it is a stock Android camera app. It does have some extra features like HDR right there, auto HDR, which is very, very handy. You have photosphere, panorama, lens blur, slow motion, and you can change the settings. Notice that there's not a lot of other things you can do with it. There's no manual mode, even though there is supposedly support for raw files and stuff like that. And I believe when it's taking pictures, it's actually shooting raw files. As you can see, it's processing HDR+. That is one of the best things about this phone, this camera on this phone. It is amazing to shoot with. Number one, to shoot with. Number two, the camera shots are just spectacular. Now, I'm not making this stuff up. This camera will take amazing photos in pretty much any lighting condition, and amazingly too, the quality is really, really good. Even in low light, even the front-facing camera, the auto HDR does an amazing job with the camera shots right here. The colors and the noise is kept at a really, really low amount, that if you're sharing, and I love this part about it, it's very, very shareable. You know, I've taken low light shots and shared it. I've taken shots from a bus and I've shared it, and people have loved the output because the quality is just super good. I'm gonna give this guy a 9 out of 10 when it comes to smartphone photography, which is really, really high. I mean, one of the top phones right now in this market, period. Now, the camera view does not stop there. This also shoots 4K videos, and just like the photos, it does shoot amazing video. Though this camera module does not have optical image stabilization, so unfortunately 4K video without software stabilization is kind of shaky, actually pretty shaky. So if you're using on a tripod, you want to make YouTube videos, you can actually shoot 4K videos that looks simply amazing, really. And lastly, the other feature that I want to talk about is the 720p 240 frames per second slow motion, which is really, really nice because I don't know of other phones that can do this, at least the 240 frames per second. But 240 frames per second is no joke, and you can shoot some amazing slow motion. Somebody diving into a pool, you can slow motion that, and people dunking, or I don't know. But yeah, really, really good slow motion video as well. All right, now, so we're going to talk about something weird with this phone, and I'm going to try to not talk at length about this issue or not issue. Because this phone has a Snapdragon 810, the Antutu score varies wildly, just volatile amount of wild Antutu score on this phone. As you can see, the highest I got is 87,000. That's because of the CPU thermal throttling of this device. It doesn't overheat. Take note, it doesn't overheat, but the performance of the processor is heavily reduced by its governors, its TCL or something like that, to a manageable standard. And this Antutu score that I got, 87,000, is because I had it next to an air conditioner. On average use, I get about 50,000, 52,000 on Antutu, which is very, very high. And even at the worst, at 42,000, it still beats every single, most of the 2015 phones out there. But that's kind of a negative thing, or something, just a little bit of a, minor thing about the Snapdragon 810 processor, is that it can't perform at 100% because of the thermal throttling, unless you live in a super cold area. All right, now that being said, even with the heavy thermal throttling of this processor, this performs really, really good still. As you can see, we are running GTA San Andreas right now on the highest ever setting we can run it on. And keep in mind, this is running at 2560 by 1440 Quad HD. This is more than full HD, and somebody just ran me over. Now I'm turning the volume up, and you'll hear the sound of the speakers. This is absolutely super. I'm going to lower it. This is absolutely one of the loudest phones I've ever tried. Now, I have tried some other phones that are louder than this, but this dual front-facing speaker setup is still one of the best. And I have to admit, with the 5.7-inch Quad HD display, it's amazing. You can watch a lot of movies on this thing. It looks amazing. It's AMOLED as well. I'm going to restore defaults to show you it's the average performance on the if you're going to compare it with your phone and you're going to test it on San Andreas, you can turn it onto the default settings and see how it performs versus this guy. So yeah, the gaming performance is still pretty good on GTA San Andreas. All right, so one more game we're going to try out is Modern Combat 5. As you can see, this is running at 2560 by 1440. This is a very high resolution game running right now. And we're going to shoot some dudes. There you go. A little bit of frame skip. Nothing to be worried about. Like I said, it's running at Quad HD. So it's definitely pushing more pixels than other competitors out there. Like I said, if this were a processor that wasn't downclocking, if we had, ice on the back of it or something, or a fan or something that would cool it down, you'll get better performance. But for now, even without the sort of cooling that we want to do, artificial cooling, it still performs great. And I'm going to let you hear that speakers again. Very, very cinematic and loud.
Hold up. Come on.
Battery life on this phone is surprisingly above average, but it definitely won't last, more than half a day longer than your average. We got about 6 hours and 14 minutes on our benchmark, which puts it near the top of our benchmark list and beats a lot of the 3,300 milliamp hour phones, which average about 4 to 5 hours, and 6 hours on a full load, or kind of like full load, full display on and everything, is quite good. That means you'll last maybe another, 3 hours or so on the road, 4 or 5 hours, I'd say, if you were a little bit more frugal with your battery. And with the doze mode, of course, on Marshmallow, it'll save more battery if you leave it on a table, which I wouldn't leave my phone on a table that much, though. So other performance aspects of the phone are super duper good as well, especially the calling on this phone. I usually don't do calls because I hate hearing, tinny, non-loud voices on the other end, but the speaker on the Nexus 6P is amazing. Even if it's just not the loudspeaker, just using it on your ear, It is a very loud, crisp, and clear speaker for calls. Really nice. LTE Bluetooth is also good, and the heat issue is not there's no heat issue. It just warms up the back, particularly because this is not a plastic back or not a soft touch back. It does slightly get warm, but like I said, the thermal throttling will keep that temperature down so it won't hurt your hands.
Let's go to the beach, eat, let's go.
All right, guys, so I think that's about it for our full review of the Huawei Nexus 6P. By the way, it comes in variety colors. This is the champagne gold one. It's the only phablet, kind of, that you should consider if you're an Android lover. This is the best phablet I've ever used, bar none. The 5.7-inch Quad HD display, the dual front-facing speakers, and the stock Android, and it's blazingly fast despite the sort of thermal clocking. Let's talk about the pros and cons. All right, so it's one of the best Android cameras in the market. Yes, the Nexus 6P has one of the best Android cameras currently in the market, and I've given it 9 out of 10 stars. Display and speakers are unbeatable for multimedia. No, not a lot of brands are doing large displays these days, and not a lot of brands are doing dual front-facing speakers these days. And the Nexus 6P has that, and they're very, very good. The modern design is very, very nice as well, especially the front. It's really, really nice and shiny. The back is kind of interesting. It's not, like a jewelry that you would flaunt. But if you look at it, it looks kind of a technically, alien, foreign look to it. That is very, very nice. The buttery smooth UI is something that you still can't get from other flagships, which is sad. It's stellar multitasking. There's no bloatware. 3 gigs of RAM is enough for stock Android. You're getting instant Google Nexus updates, guaranteed Android, and as soon as it comes out with a preview right now, you got some extras which are very, very good. You got the NFC, the Type-C. By the way, the fingerprint scanner is one of the best. Huawei makes one of the best fingerprint scanners out there, and this is no exception. It's super fast and super good. By the way, I haven't shown you that. That's how it works. If you're a gaming-minded person or a VR-minded person, both of those require, large, high-definition displays and very powerful speakers. Just like media consumption, this is the phone that you should get. It's a 5.7-inch display, very good. AMOLED is also best for VR if you ask me. And the last one is the battery is above average. I really like that. I get about a 4+ hours of screen on time, and I'm a heavy user. I like that the built-in storage is 64 gigs, even though you can't expand it, you can't remove the battery. The battery and built-in storage is above average. I don't think you need to expand that 64 gigs that much. All right, so let's talk about the cons of this phone. And mind you, I don't think any of these cons are deal breakers when it comes to the Huawei Nexus 6P. Number one con is that the camera app is very simplistic. There is no manual mode. There is no crazy HDR, although it does it automatically. And also, the camera module does not have optical image stabilization. So if you're a video freak and you want to shoot your video, you will have to go with electronic stabilization or another phone on itself. Number two con is that the Qualcomm Snapdragon 810. This is not a fault by Huawei, mind you. The Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 is a mess when it comes to thermal downclocking. And 2015 was a terrible year for Qualcomm because they were terrible at their thermal throttling last year. Number three con is the fixed battery and non-expandable storage. It might not appeal for some. I don't really mind. I've been using fixed battery phones and fixed storage phone. I don't even swap micro SD cards anymore. That's not a thing for me. And 64 gigs is more than enough. Look at the amount of games I have on this thing. That's more than enough. That's a lot of HD games that I could be playing, and I still have 33.3 gigabytes on this thing. Last con to the Huawei Nexus 6P is the price at $29,990, or if you buy it somewhere, you can find it for about $27,400 in cash. That is still quite a lot of money, and there are competitors out there that's coming out in 2016. 2016, mind you, this came out in 2015, that match the specs, match the quality of this phone. Maybe not the display, because they're usually using smaller displays. And they're just priced just a little bit higher than 30,000 pesos. And that's worrying because you're getting the Snapdragon 810 that is not perfect, mind you. But if you're willing to let that go, I think this is still the phone. Particularly for me, I don't like any bloatware on my phones and I want stock Android. So this is for me. Anyway, overall, the Huawei Nexus 6P is the best phablet I've ever used. Yes, I'm saying it right now, best phablet. It's got a large high-res display, powerful front speakers. You know, gaming and multimedia is so enjoyable on this because of the powerful speakers. The camera and UI is just brilliant, of course, and you're getting Android updates, of course. It is hands down one of the best phones in the market right now, and the positives heavily outweigh the negatives, 100%. So for that, we're giving it our Editor's Choice Award. Congrats to the Huawei Nexus 6P. It really deserves it. I'm Alex from thetechnoclass.com. That has been the review of the Huawei Nexus 6P. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.